Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today I'm going to be showing you the NZXT H6 Flow. Now the H9 that they did was incredibly popular to the point that they couldn't even build it quick enough in reality, because there were those of you out there pre-ordering it and queuing up for it. Now the H6 has a slight twist. Rather than just glass and then possibly glass on the roof, they've just stuck with a Flow version. But there's a 45-degree angle on the front of this case. So there's the flat, it kicks back. And it means that those fans are directed more towards the graphics card. Now it's a bit smaller number, slightly smaller case. Flow, less glass, means better airflow. Could be a better gamery case. Now when I first looked at this, I quite liked it. Now I have already built this, as I normally would, as the regulars will know. I've already built it and I've already tested it with this standard kit. But then I kind of liked it, so I ended up chucking this kit in it as well. So to start off with, I'm going to show you a very sped up version of me having a look at, or me building the case. If you don't want to do that, there's timestamps underneath, because I do that now. So there's timestamps underneath if you want to skip straight to the review. Then we're going to do a full review. We'll do the testing as we normally would do, and then we will wrap up at the end. So the build was very fast, yes, but main points to point out. MEG Z790 Ace Max. It's only got a 13900K in it because I've only got one 14900K, and I still need to use that for motherboard testing. So life of a reviewer, I've got to use the old stuff. 1490 Supreme from MSI. We've kind of put this together because you are going to be seeing this rig in multiple places, so this kind of made sense. Then we have the Kraken Elite 360 RGB. They have given me some fans to add into the case because they do need them, so they're the ones that I've got. And then the power supply, Be Quiet straight power 12, 1500 watt. I went overkill because it's going to have a 4090 in it. I went overkill because I'm going to be using it, and I went overkill because. And then the only other thing to show you is the G.Skill Trident Z5 RGB white memory. That's 8000 megahertz, and G.Skill are legends for letting me have some white stuff like this very early. I know it's slightly unbalanced. The regulars will be expecting me to throw all white hardware at this. But in this instance, I wasn't really able to. So would you change the graphics card? Completely up to you. Would you change the motherboard? Completely up to you. What I've tried to do though is add the white accents in where I possibly could do to try and balance it out. Anyway, down to the actual case. White frame around the outside of the door up here. It's not really a tinted window either, so that's something to keep in mind when we talk about the case and the windows. Down at the bottom here is your I/O. So you've got your power switch with your light around the side, a couple of USB 3.2 Gen 2s. Then you've got your USB-C here, combined headphone and microphone there. And then really round to what you could call the main event is the wonky fans. I want to call it the wonky window, but it's not a window, so I can't. It does just pull off when you get your fingers on it correctly. Now they say that meshing is designed for airflow, and as you'll see later on, we've not really had any issues with airflow, but there's no dust filtering there at all or anything like that. The fans that came with are white, but they are RGB. You can plug them directly into your motherboard, or there's a little cable that is built into the case. You can pull that all off and you can wire that into an NZXT controller. So you've got the best of both worlds there, depending on whether you have invested into the ecosystem already. On the roof, the whole roof panel comes off. It has the same meshing that I've just shown you on the front. It's a steel panel, so you can stick magnets to it if you want to. Not that you're going to need to stick magnets to that, but you get what I mean. There's quite a lot of things now that are magnet. Anyway, right, so roof panel, offset, nice. That will fit 360. That is a 360mm AIO fitted. Only up to a 280 if you want to go 140mm fans though. Obviously you can fit just fans, radiators. The other side of it is I've got the Kraken fitted in the roof, which is, I think it's a 27mm radiator, but you would be looking at a 30mm radiator with a set of fans as a maximum to fit over the motherboard cleanly. The Ace that we're using in this has large heat sinks, so it would be one of those ones where because of the large heat sinks, I would say stick to that radiator size. Okay then, so round to the back. First things first, 120mm fan only. You can move it up and down on the sliders, but you've got this large mesh section down the side for airflow if you've got your graphics card in the normal orientation, because I do need to stress I have fitted an NZXT vertical mount in this to be able to do that. It's an extra thing that you'd have to buy, comes with the cable and everything. The only thing I have done, because otherwise there would be this large section at the bottom of the vertical mount, because this is one of said vertical mounts. I thought this would cover up airflow, so I've actually cut this off. The bottom of the riser cable still fits and is lovely, but it just means you get that cleaner airflow around the bottom. It was always a bugbear with me with one of these, but what this does do is allow support for your graphics card, which is why I've ended up with a support at the other end, and that's just the one that comes with the Supreme. So that's what I have fitted. It's something you can get from MSI, and you would need to if you wanted to go down this route. This section here, when we get on the other side, is where the hard drive cage would normally fit, and I've looked around the room and I don't know what I've done with it, because I was in here very late last night trying to get this built and set up and done. Power supply mount over here, you can mount it both ways, but you're going to want it so that the fan points out and can draw air in here. Same sort of meshing on the front, by the way. It's a very kind of like, the design flows everywhere, as it should do. But then you have clips down the side, so if you want, you can clip your power cable down. It will keep it cleaner to keep it away from any data cables that you might have. Be aware that unless you're running a shielded power supply cable, you may run into some issues if you clip them all together. Round to the back, and we'll just go up a little bit. There we go. So pulling the rear panel off, again, no dust filtering, it is just that mesh. It is only going to be a matter of time before we find out whether that meshing works. Now, there's a lot of cables in here, but that's because I have 9 fans in here. 9 fans that all have separate RGB cables as well. And I've had to clip it all in, and this, you know, this is the best that I could do with wherever they could go, because I've added a controller in here. This has been added. This controller up here has also been added. You don't get those with the 3 fans that come in it, because you only get these 3 fans with the case. They come with an adapter cable which will plug straight into your motherboard, so you don't get any of the controllers. These Velcro clips look like they're going to be a great idea because you can clip things behind them. From my point of view though, after building in this, there's just too much room behind, and in reality these could have just been straight pieces of plastic because they don't really do anything. You need extra cable tie downs in there as well to be able to clip them down to. It is the same story above what we'll call the motherboard tray area, because there are 2 more up there, and in reality, again, they're not really doing a great deal. It looks great, but from my point with, you know, my experience with building in this, it just made me quite frustrated. I actually think I would have been able to have done a better job if I had better ways to clip all of this down, because as you can see, it's still very loose, and I've done them up as tight as I can do. There are a few cable tying mounts in the bottom of the case, and I have clipped things down here as much as I can as well. As you can see, I've tried to keep it as open as possible, but this is just like a messy electrical cabinet at the moment. The power supply cables themselves look pretty tidy, and that's because I've clipped them down with normal zip tie loops in the back, and that's how I would have liked to have got these, because I think I could have done better. Technically, I could have cable tied to these posts down the back, but I just wanted to show you that these clips, while looking nice, they're not particularly great. So I'd like some cable tie posts up here and cable tie posts up along the top as well. Thank you very much. Thank you, please. Beyond that is a nice amount of room around here. Like, yes, it's not massively tidy, but there is also an awful lot in here. Where we've got 9 fans, that means there's 18 cables in there just for the fans. We've got 2 controllers. We've got all the power supply cables in here, plus quite a few SATA cables, because I have 4 SATA products connected in. I also have 3 USB 2 things that are meant to go to the motherboard, but I've had to use a splitter, all in here as well. So there is an awful lot of stuff in the back of the case. Round to the business side. As I've already said, non-tinted window, and for a white case, that is definitely the way forward. 240mm fans in the bottom. They don't come with it, just comes with the mounts. And just to be very rough and ready with it, the meshing on the bottom is the same as everywhere else, and your fans bolt through the meshing. There are little rubber posts down there, so it's nice, it's all good. Anyway, 240mm fans in the bottom. No 120mm fan mounts there at all. So if you want to clean the lines off like I have here, you will need to buy yourself a pair of 140s. Also, because of the rear being 120 only, if you want to follow what I have done, you need to buy a rear 120 as well, because it isn't included. I do think that the balance of the 360 in the roof is probably what the majority of you are going to do. It fits beautifully above the motherboard, and you'd almost say that the cable lengths or the hosing lengths for the AIO are perfect at that point. I also think personally that a vertical graphics card in here like this, like I've done, is perfect with the lower fans and everything as well. They don't list a E-ATX motherboard as being supported in the pack. There's a reason for that, and I'm just going to try and zoom you in. I don't know whether you'll be able to see the fact that my motherboard there overhangs the end of the motherboard tray. It's a fair bit as well. I'm trying to get my hand in there to be able to show you, but there is a fair bit of overhang on it. There you go. There's probably the better place to be able to show you. It does overhang a fair bit, but like I said, they don't say that it is supported, but it does go in. So there is where the edge is. That's how much has hung over. Now it's going to affect airflow a little bit from that front section, and if you were all air with a horizontal graphics card, I'd probably say not to, but I don't think it's going to make too much difference. It certainly hasn't with this. I just wanted to bring it up anyway, but they don't say it's supported. The cable grommets are all round the back there. You can just see them. They're out the way. You don't really see them. Obviously, this is a fully built system with a million things in it, with every possible thing connected. Could I have tidied it up a little bit more? Probably. I have tried pulling the cables as tight as I can back underneath the bottom of the case. But that is pretty much it. You can put a radiator in the front if you want. You can go up to 360 and you've got a few radiator choices there. But the beautiful thing about the radiator in the side, if you did want it to go full water cooling, is you're not going to run into any issues with running dual rads. The only thing you'll have to go careful with is where your reservoir and pump are put, and I would suggest that should go underneath the power supply, round the back of the case. So 2 360s, easy peasy. You've just got to get creative with getting your hosing round into the back. Change of hardware, but it's because this is our static test kit. Now when we do tests with this, the air cooler gets fixed to 9 volts via a SATA adapter with a resistor in it, and then the graphics card RPMs get set to 60%, and what that means is then when we change the fan speeds, that's the only thing that can affect the cooling, and you'll see it does actually make quite a bit of difference. Now the case itself, as I've already said, only comes with the front fans. Now, NZXT did have the foresight to send me an F120 core to put in the back of the case and as an exhaust. This is going to be about £20 if you was to buy this at home. The ones in the bottom are the F140 RGB cores. A pair of these with the controller so that you can control these costs about £50. So we've added £70 in value in airflow, so it takes us up to about £200. But I actually do think most of you at home are going to be running this with an AIO anyway, which would have added airflow in as well, and that's why we have to be quite specific about how we tell you that we test, so you can kind of get an idea on how your kit may perform with it in there. But at the end of the day, all of the graphs are tested in the exact same way as far as RPMs are concerned. We just needed to say that the case in this instance had extra fans added. Some of the cases in the graphs have obviously been tested as is because they come fully kitted out in the first place. So performance wise, it did exceptionally well. And I genuinely do mean exceptionally well. We do a 600 RPM case fan test, 1000 RPM, 1500 RPM, and then a max. Wow. The only one really where the results weren't right at the bottom was the max GPU temp. And that's because the difference between the max GPU temp and 1000 RPM GPU temp, there wasn't really any difference. At that point, once we got to 1000 RPM, that was the best that we could get the cooling with our specific GPU, which is a blower. But again, we keep it fair. If you were to not run a blower, you might have slightly better temps as the RPMs increased. The lower fan RPMs, lower fans definitely make the biggest difference for the graphics card temps though. And then the 3 fans in the front are what feeding our CPU. So outstanding performance. Now I say outstanding based on the fact that it's £130 case, but we've obviously added in the extra fan, so now it's a £200 case. So it's not the cheapest it's not the cheapest case that we would have tested, but the performance, as you can see, was down there fighting with some of the real big hitters. Okay, so conclusion time. H6, H9. Yes, the behemoth that many of you are queuing up to get. Obviously, it's a large case. Lots of light. Really, if you get the one with the glass top, which is the one I prefer, a very clever way of being able to see the radiator and stuff as well, because it's got little vents at the side, but you know that. Anyway, so H6, H9. H6, H9. With the H6, much more compact, but very cleverly designed. With the funky kind of angled airflow at the front, only ruined when an idiot puts too big a motherboard in there, is exactly what I've done. But I think with this starting at £120, it's probably the star of the show. You do need to add fans into it, like I've done. There's an extra 70 quid's worth of fans there, so let's round it up to £200. Then you've got obviously all the rest of the kit. I would suggest that adding the fans in, as I've done, should be done. Like, don't bother not doing it because you're just going to have channels underneath missing and all of that sort of stuff. I do think you should put the fans in. So that's why I'm saying it's at 200 quid, which then doesn't make it particularly cheap. But the airflow on it is spot on. You've seen in the graphs, it performed incredibly well in this config with our normal stuff. I personally love the layout, apart from the clips around the back, which frustrated the nuts out of me. But you can get little zip tie sticky pads, so you can put them on and then loop your zip tie through. Typically, I don't have any here at the moment. They're at my workshop where I work on my cars, but that would be exactly what I would do with this. You can pick them up for a couple of pounds. If you buy a black case, buy the black ones. If you buy a white case, buy the white ones. You will thank me for it later. The good thing is you can kind of put them anywhere and just pull everything in. Just make sure the glue's gone off before, like, give it a good push and give it a couple of minutes to go before you start to use them. But I genuinely really like this. The angled side of it, I think, is a trick that they missed on the H9, if I'm honest. I think they should have done it on that. And I would have liked it if they'd had a little bit of brand identity with the H's as well, because they're all slightly different. And I think they could have all been different product lines. Like the H9 could have been a greenhouse. That's a bad way to put it, because I actually like the case. I don't think I'm putting it down. But I think if all the H's would have had this 45-degree thing, they probably would have done even better. Maybe that's just personal preference. Obviously it's white, but it does come in different colours as well. So it's not just for white hardware aficionados like me. Those of you out there that like a more stealthy, dark approach, I actually think the mesh is probably going to look better on your cases, and by the time you've got your RGB fans on the other side, I think it's going to take on another little design aesthetic as well, rather than me just sticking everything on white. I did look at red, but the red wasn't intense enough. Anyway, I thoroughly love this case, like genuinely, properly like it. It gets a TTL's thumbs up, white gold, all of that sort of stuff, because I like it. And the fact that I took one look at it and then instantaneously was like, well, I do need to do this and this with it, but then I want to use it later as well, should kind of speak volumes that I don't do builds very often, especially not builds for myself. That never happens. but I have done with this, and I'm really, really looking forward to what you see happens later. Anyway, I'm going to big thumbs up, leave you alone. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment. If you're on the fence, just trust an old man. Go and buy yourself one, but make sure you get the fans as well.